Hey, welcome back to another British Family Reacts, and I suppose I am a British girl reacting to all things USA, and in today's video I am going to be reacting to another fabulous Lost in the Pond video entitled 7 Ways British and American Pubs Are Very Different. If you are new to the channel, it's not me just chatting on my own. I'm usually joined by my fabulous husband Mr. H, who actually started the channel, but unfortunately he's working so can't get some of these videos done, so I thought I would have a little play on my own, and it feels good to be sat in the hot seat on my own. And we also have our beautiful little baby H. Now she is currently asleep. I will just show you her having a little snooze. This is what I like to call a lanacam. Now if you do like the sound of that and you are new here, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And also if you like the video and you do like what you see and you like us reacting to things, then don't forget to give us a little like and smash that like button for us. Now before I talk any more gibberish, I'm gonna quit my jibber jabber and get on with the video.
In the US, this varies by state, but there's not a single one in the Union that mandates that pubs close as early as that. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to pubs. Pubs, where would we be without them? A question that's been decisively answered in the hellscape that is 2020. In fact, while we're on the subject of the pandemic, do keep in mind, Uncle Toby, that a lot of what you're about to hear in this video might temporarily not be true. That doesn't mean that it's not ordinarily true, it just means that pubs have had to make a lot of changes on either side of the pond. And the key word there is either. I think before I moved to the United States, I was under the assumption that America didn't have pubs, but specialised instead in bars. But America does have pubs. Sometimes they'll be the kind of pubs that are looking to mimic those in Britain or Ireland. And those ones are easy to spot because they'll say something like Johnny's Irish Pub, or the Elephant and Castle in allusion to Britain's many castles and elephants. But
yes, we have lots of elephants over in the UK.
Then America does have pubs in its own right, usually called something along the lines of Merv's Tavern. And since I'm now familiar with how pubs operate in both countries, I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about 7 ways that British and American pubs are very different. So go and order yourself a pint of Foster's or Miller Lite as we order in the first round.
I would like to order in a Miller Lite, but I am on baby duty, obviously, because I'm looking after baby H tonight. But I just wanted to point out that that photo on the wall that Lawrence has actually got with the red London bus, it was just in the video that I reacted to, but it wasn't on the wall, it was on the floor. Now I know where it was meant to go. Right, let's get on with this. Oh.
The story of my drinking life goes a little bit like this. At the ages of 16 and 17,
oh, love him.
I could waltz up to the bar of any British pub and order myself an absinthe. And that's not because 16 is the legal drinking age in Britain. It's because A, door security is usually pretty lax, as in there is no door security. And B, I've always looked 4 years older than I am. No, the legal drinking age in Britain is 18, so imagine my surprise on my 18th birthday when me and a few mates went to paint the town red, not literally, that's another story, and I got carded for the first time in my entire life.
Now, we don't say carded over here, but I know what he's on about because we've also done a reaction video to some of the different things that we would all say. So, yeah, didn't get carded. We'd say you got ID'd.
And the problem was I didn't have any ID with me. Fast forward 9 years, 27 years old, and I've moved to the United States of America. What's the first thing that happens as I enter a pub? I get carded. But then depending on the state, it is not unusual for people that are much older, sometimes 70 years older, to be carded at an American pub. Trust me, saw this with my own eyes. It happened to Dick Van Dyke. Of course, by then I'd learned my lesson and I did indeed have some ID. Ironically, I get carded a lot less these days, one of the perks of being a YouTube sensation and 38 years old. So nationally, the legal drinking age in the United States is 21, but that hasn't always been the case. In some states, it was even once like Britain, a pub could legally serve somebody who was 18 years or older. In 1969, while Neil and Buzz were landing on the moon, teenagers could legally land themselves a glass of Blue Moon, but only in the states of Louisiana and Neil Armstrong's home state of Ohio.
OH.
And then something changed. By 1975, the number of 18 states had risen to 23. This was a domino effect following the recent change of the voting age from 21 to 18. The belief being that if somebody's old enough to vote, they're old enough to drink. The problem is, legislators didn't stop to think about what would happen if these two things happened at the same time. By
dangerous.
1983, the numbers plummeted as states moved to increase their drinking age once more to 21.
Do you know what? That's really interesting. I always thought that in the US, it was always you had to be 21 or older to be able to drink. I didn't know that in some states it was 18, and obviously that increased to 23 states, did you say? And then they went back on their word. That is quite interesting.
This was seen as a response to an increase in drunk driving incidents, and the domino effect was complete in 1984, when President Ronald Reagan signed into law the National Minimum Drinking Age Act, which outlawed the purchase of alcohol by individuals under the age of 21. In 2020, one or two parental loopholes notwithstanding, the legal drinking age remains 21 in all US states and territories except Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands, where it's 18.
Okay.
Pubs, what are they good for? Well, the answer to that question could be different depending on which country you are in. I mean, sure, in both countries, one of the chief aims of pubs is to give customers a place to get pissed until the cows come home. And if you've ever been drinking with me, that happens regularly.
I am sure there's lots of funny stories about people when they actually get drunk and what they get up to. I know Mr. H, not when we were together, but in his youth, came home with a traffic cone.
But the main difference here lies in their purpose in the middle of the day. In Britain, if we go to the pub in the middle of the day, often this can take on a quiet but social tone. We just go to talk over a pint. In a way, it's like how Americans go and grab a coffee. Coffee. Why am I saying it like that? One country emerges from this scenario drunk on caffeine, the other drunk on the street.
Oh, love him. That's some hair he's got going on there.
Apart from that, it's the same thing. If you go into the pub in the middle of the day in America, you can usually expect that to be coupled with a sporting event. And that doesn't mean you yourself get drunk and start playing polo. It means you enter a pub that's simultaneously showing about 28 different sports.
I just got to ask a question of all our subscribers. Let us know in the comments down below. But do you actually go to the pub very often? Because a lot of people that we've been talking to, I don't think a lot of you drink that much in terms of alcohol, and you don't seem to go to pubs or bars from what I know of you. But you might do that, and we might not just have that conversation. But I quite like to go out for a social drink. It's something that I find is quite nice to do on a weekend. But I appreciate not everybody likes a drink.
Would need to have a of these. That's right. In America, the term sports bar is almost redundant, though I'm finding firsthand the same is not true of the term sports bra. Don't ask. One word, tequila. But the reason that the term sports bar ought to be redundant is that just about every pub and bar in America is worthy of that title.
Makes sense.
In other words, it's incredibly common to walk into an establishment and be surrounded by television sets. And these television sets don't typically show repeats of Happy Days, but of the Cubs losing, or at least when I'm around. In British pubs, you will occasionally find a TV, but the emphasis is not on consuming television, but rather on consuming alcohol and the words of your friends.
That's true, because a lot of the pubs over here do actually show sporting events. So it might be like the soccer when that's on. So quite a lot of people congregate at the pub, get a couple of drinks in and watch the game. But there's no noise on it usually, so you can't actually hear what's going on.
That sounded weird. Earlier in the video, I joked that we ourselves don't play sports while down at the pub, but in either country this isn't strictly true. Of course, in Britain this depends on whether or not you class darts as a sport, especially when you're at the pub because you've got a drink in your hand, which I've just realised is also true of professional darts players. Either way, darts are an incredibly popular sport in British pubs. In American pubs, even though you will occasionally encounter the odd dartboard, sometimes very odd dartboard, they're just not as big a part of the pub-going experience. And when you think about the sentence, drunk people throwing sharp objects, that probably makes sense.
We also quite like Skittles, the game Skittles. It's a bit like bowling or 10-pin bowling. That's a good game to actually play at the pub, or like a social club or something. But yeah, that's a good game.
I'm often reminded of those stories of American tourists who enter a British pub, sit at a table and wait on a waiter to wait for them. Here's the truth, you could be waiting a long time because unlike the United States, British pubs tend not to employ table service. And this can be a problem, particularly when the pub is heaving in the sense of crowded, not throwing up. You want to make sure you get a seat. I understand that, right? So here's what you do. If you're there in a group, one of you go up to the bar while the rest of you claim the seat. The one at the bar orders all of the drinks and then it's his or her responsibility to carry them to the table. Just don't use the term double fisting. In America, things are different. Even during the Super Bowl, which is not a national dish, you can fully expect to receive table service in most pubs throughout the land. Of course, this could be partially dictated by the tipping culture that exists in America. And fellow Brits, that's not the same thing as fly tipping.
I gotta say, I am enjoying this video. So if you also do like this video, then don't forget to drop a like. But what I've noticed is this is quite different. I think this video is a couple of years old. Well, actually, Lawrence said 2020. So it is a couple of years old. And I've noticed the change in, or the evolution in Lost in the Ponds videos, and how this one's quite tongue-in-cheek, and I quite like it.
At the end of the day, we go to the pub to get absolutely rat-arsed or to have a casual drink. And so to some degree, it's going to vary from country to country as to what is on tap. There are some crossovers and I dare say some exceptions to what I'm about to say. But there are lots of differences in the beers that are served, and this can vary from pub to pub or even region to region. Any pub, British or American, worth their salt will feature a comprehensive list of local beers. Naturally, these are going to be different between Britain and America, but also between regions within each of those countries. But then you get down to the big names too. In Britain, you're far more likely to be ordering the Australian beer Foster's than you are Samuel Adams. If that's not your bag, there's always Carlsberg or Carling. In America, Budweiser or Miller Lite. And if you want one that unites the two countries, you could go for the Belgian beer Stella Artois, which in Britain is trashy and in the US it's classy.
Interesting. One thing I did notice as well, that we drink a lot of draft beers over here, and I'm not a big, I was going to say I'm not a big beer drinker, but I do like a beer. I do like a lager on occasion. But I think over in the States you have more bottled beers. Is that correct? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if it is.
And then, of course, there's the pint size itself. Let me go back in time and hand you over to Lawrence from a few months ago. Great Britain might be unfairly known for its warm beer, but at least you get more bang for your buck, or should I say quid. You see, a British pint is larger than its American counterpart. To some, that might sound like something that I cooked up after, 4 pints of Stella, especially since each country defines a pint as 1/8 of a gallon. But here's the catch. Gallons are different too. In the US, a gallon is equal to 3.79 litres. In Britain, it's equal to 4.55 litres. So 1/8 of a US gallon gives you a pint of 473 millilitres. So a good old British pint clocks in at 568. And this is great news for American beer fans in Britain because it means that 6 American pints are equal to 5 British ones. You'll be slaughtered before the pub quiz starts. Aside from the fact that you now have a particular song stuck in your head, you're probably asking the question, what's the difference between British and American closing times? You see, in Britain, right up until about 2005, it was mandated that pubs had to close at 11 p.m. On the one hand, you could get around this by starting your drinking session earlier, say at 7 o'clock in the morning. On the other, given the time difference, you couldn't stay around long enough to watch wrestling pay-per-views.
Yeah.
But then in 2005, a law was passed that said that pubs could stay open 24 hours so long as they had a specific license. But by all accounts, it looks like most British pubs haven't applied for this license because they still shut at 11 p.m.
I have noticed that with the pandemic, a lot of the pubs are actually closing earlier again.
In the US, this varies by state, but there's not a single one in the Union that mandates that pubs close as early as that. In fact, 27 states in the Union permit their pubs to stay open until 2 a.m. And it's usually at that time, after tequila, that my voice really does sound like that. Now, there are some notable exceptions to this rule. Alaska and Hawaii are to drinking times what Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands are to the legal drinking age. In other words, they're so far away from the mainland, they can sort of get away with it. What can they get away with? Staying open until 4 and 5 a.m. There are state and local exceptions to those rules, just in case you were thinking of moving to either of those states.
I couldn't do it. I literally struggled to stay up past 11 o'clock. And if you know me and you're one of our patrons and you do support the channel a bit further, and if you want to support the channel a bit further, then head over to the link in the pinned comments about Patreon and you can support us a bit further and you can have your name appear in here. But if you are one of our patrons and you do join us on some of our Zooms where we have a chat amongst all of us, you'll know that by about 10:30 p.m. I'm doing this. I'm getting very tired and very, 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 very tired. So I could not stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning drinking. That's ridiculous. I tell you one thing I really do want to do. I want to come over to one of your bars in the US and order a pint. No, I don't want to order a pint because I won't drink a pint. But I want to sit at the bar and get a beer, because over there I'm going to say over there, on films, you see a lot of people going to the bar, ordering a drink, and sometimes at certain bars they get pushed along the bar and you kind of grab it. I wouldn't want to do that because I would just mess that up massively and I'd spill it. But I just want to go and experience this. So next time we come to the US, I'm going to make sure that I take Mr. H out for a pint, and hopefully Lawrence might come with us as well. Lawrence, if you want to come for a pint, just let us know. Please don't forget to like the video. All that leaves me to say is take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.